session from. All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Barberton City Council. There's a lot of you in the audience for the swearing in and of the new council members. Before we begin that's at 7:30. We do have a sign die meeting that we have to do just for some cleanup of last year. So this is a sign die meeting of Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 7:03. It is January 2nd, 2024. For the roll call of this, we do have Mr. Jaber is in attendance, but other outgoing council members are not present. And the current council members that are participating in the sign die meeting will be Councilman Heidick, Councilwoman Thompson, and myself. So approval of the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on Monday, December 18th, 2023, as presented. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve the minutes of the regular legislative session held on Monday, December 18th, 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to approve the minutes of the regular legislative session held on Monday, December 18th, 2023, as presented.
Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to approve the minutes of the regular legislative meeting held on December 18th, 2023, as presented. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The minutes are adopted. And I now declare 2023 in this meeting signed die. With nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adjourn.
Thank you. And Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to adjourn.
Thank you. It was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Sign die meeting is adjourned at 7:05 p.m. All right. So we have the next thing up is going to be our organizational meeting that kicks off at 7:30. So we do have about 25 minutes until that kicks off. So until then, just kind of hang out. I do want to mention that when we do the swearing in, if your family member or somebody wants to get photos with the person or of the person getting sworn in, you're more than welcome to come up off to the side and get more closer photos so you're not back in the gallery when they're getting sworn in. And there'll be a short break after that too to get pictures with the new council members in their seat. And we'll go from there. So until 7:30, we'll reconvene here at 7:30 p.m. Thanks.
And we're really not stalling you. This is all per charter.
Yes.
Yeah, we're stuck to it. I think that's working.
No kidding.
Yeah, sure. Do you want a lanyard and housing for it? Yeah.
Purple like that? Yeah. You come with gifts.
Yeah, I'll just, they're still trying to figure out my council email. Just, JENI, put in your email. 816,
And I don't care how we do it, council or we got
330.
but we need to know if we have one.
I wanted to take your picture. I want to see your picture. I don't, that's fine. Okay. Yeah.
She was going to reach out.
Would you bring it today tonight? And I can take it back. Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
Are you going to elect over? No. There's a form. You want to take that with you and bring that back. That's you acknowledging that you're going to pass on that.
Okay.
All right. Perfect. Can I take it? Or do you want me to do it after? Thank you. Okay.
Hi, how are you?
This is terrible.
She'll get it
She's the complaint.
Terramana pen fell, sorry.
Do you need another one? I'll put that on top, so that's not. I'm just making around, and I have some good clothes.
Smile, Kenny.
I know you could. Put a line and put 15 and then initials, whatever you get, yeah, 2019. Sorry, thank you.
Just collecting everybody's email and phone numbers and stuff. We are going to be counseled by it. New people.
got a little bit more full since the last meeting. That's good to see. We're going to begin here in about 30 seconds. I ask if you have your cell phone, please turn it on vibrate or silent. Doesn't have to be turned off. I know a lot of folks are going to use their phone for pictures. All right, good evening again. Today is January 2nd, 2023. This is an organizational meeting for the Barberton 2024. Let me restart that. Thank you. First day of the official meeting, and I messed it up already. All right, so it is January 2nd, 2024. It is correct on my sheet, by the way. I just said that. This is an organizational meeting of Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 7:31 p.m. There's a few orders of business today. First up, we will be swearing in our new council members. How this is going to work is we are going to start from Ward 1, and we'll make our way down the ward list. So first up, Judge McKinney to swear in. Oh, yes, apologize. The first to be sworn in is Jeremy Flaker, the Director of Finance.
Congratulations to Jeremy, who was unopposed. Raise your right hand.
I, Jeremy Flaker,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent upon me
as Finance Director
as Finance Director
for the City of Barberton,
for the City of Barberton,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding.
and understanding.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Flaker. Whew. Okay, off to a really rocky start on 2024. All right. Yeah, the only way to go is up. All right, now we are going to begin our ward representatives. We're going to start with Ward 1, Jennifer Hager.
Am I right? The only other unopposed person, right? Congratulations, Jennifer.
Thank you.
You can say aye and say.
I, Jennifer Hager,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent upon me
as councilperson,
as-
Ward 1,
as councilperson Ward 1
for the City of Barberton,
for the City of Barberton,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding.
and understanding.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mrs. Hager. All right, next up is Ward 2, Kenneth Cheatham. Judge Sutton will be administering the oath.
I am profoundly honored to have the chance to swear in this council.
United States,
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
the Charter
the Charter
of the City of Barberton,
of the City of Barberton,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent upon me
as councilperson Ward 2
as councilperson, Ward 2,
for the City of Barberton,
for the City of Barberton,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding,
and understanding.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Cheatham. All right. Next up will be Ward 3, Mr. Shorter Griffin.
Only returning one councilman, all right? I, Shorter Griffin, do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent upon me
as councilperson,
as councilperson,
Ward 3,
Ward 3,
for the City of Barberton,
for the City of Barberton,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and
and
understanding.
understanding.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Griffin. All right, next up is Ward 4, Mrs. Emily Beck.
I can't see it.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent upon me
as councilperson,
as councilperson,
Ward 4,
Ward 4,
for the City of Barberton,
for the City of Barberton,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding.
and understanding.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mrs. Beck. Next up is Ms. Rebecca Gearhart.
I, Rebecca Gerhart,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon
all duties incumbent upon me
as councilperson,
as councilperson,
Ward 5,
Ward 5,
for the City of
to
Barberton,
the City of Barberton,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding.
and understanding.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Ms. Gearhart. All right, last but not least, Mr. Monty Harris for Ward 6.
I, Monty Harris,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent upon me
as councilperson,
as councilperson,
Ward 6,
Ward 6,
for the City of Barberton,
City of Barberton,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding.
and understanding.
So help me
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Harris.
They want me to roll call.
All right, now it begins. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you. Things happen. All right, there'll be time after the organizational meeting to take pictures with family. All right, so next up is roll call. I am present. Mr. Heidick,
Here.
Mrs. Thompson,
Here.
Mrs. Hager,
Here.
Mr. Cheatham. Here. Mr. Griffin,
Here.
Mrs. Beck,
Here.
Ms. Gearhart,
Here.
and Mr. Harris. Here. Thank you. We have 3 orders of business today and our organizational meeting. The first up is to appoint a clerk of council. I'll now open the floor for nominations for the clerk of council. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to appoint Ms. Lori Reese Price to clerk of council.
All right, we're taking nominations. Mrs. Thompson?
Thank
Somebody
you.
want to- Sorry.
What was that?
Would you like to second that?
Yes, please.
All right, it was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to nominate Mrs. Lori Reese Price as clerk of council. Are there any other nominations? All right, I'd like to close nominations. Seeing and hearing no other nominations, it was moved by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to nominate Ms. Roy Reese Price for Clerk of Council. I'll now take a roll call. Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gearhart?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
And Mr. Griffin? Yeah, he's already on there. It'd be myself, so. All right. Mrs. Loy Reese Price is appointed to the Clerk of Council. I'd ask that Judge McKinney administer her oath for the Clerk of Council.
I, Laura Reese Price,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
the Charter of the City of Barberton,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent upon me
as Clerk of Council
as Clerk of Council
for the City of Barberton,
for the City of Barberton,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding.
and understanding.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, judges. Thank you for your stuff. Thank you. Ain't going nowhere. All right, the next order of business is to elect a vice president of council. I'm going to do this we're going to do a simple vote. So I'll open the floor up for nominations. You raise your hand if there is a nomination, and you'll state your nomination. I will ask for any further nominations. If there are more than one, we will take a vote at that point to decide who the vice president will be. So I will now open the floor up for nominations for vice president. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to nominate Councilor Griffin as our vice president.
Thank you. Is there any other nominations? Mr. Harris?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to nominate Taylor Thompson.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Ms. Gerhardt?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to nominate Councilman Harris.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All right. So how we're going to do this is I will ask for a vote by show of hand when I name the council member's name. A show of hand is a yes vote for that council member to be vice president. So by show of hands. For support for Mr. Griffin to be vice president. Thank you. By show of hands, Mrs. Thompson to be vice president. Thank you. And by show of hands, Mr. Harris to be vice president. Thank you. Mr. Griffin has the votes and is now vice president of City Council. Congratulations, Mr. Griffin. All right, next order of business is to adopt council rules. Is there a motion to adopt council rules as they are currently presented? Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt the current council rules as presented.
Thank you. And is there a second? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to adopt the current council rules as presented.
Thank you. There was motion by Mr. Heidick and second by Mrs. Thompson to adopt the council rules as presented. We'll now call the roll for adoption. Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Ms. Beck?
Yes.
And I'm not falling for that double name again. So, all right, the council rules are adopted. We do have one other minor piece of business that we have to establish today, and that is there a motion to appoint our council clerk as designee of Barberton City Council? Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to appoint our clerk as the designee for the council.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to designate our council clerk, Mrs. Lori Reese Price, as our designee for Barberton City Council. I'll now call the roll. Mr. Cheatham?
Yes.
Ms. Gerhart?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. Hager?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Heidick?
Yes.
Mrs. Beck?
Yes.
All right. Vote has it. Mrs. Lori Reese Price is the designee for Barberton City Council. And with no further business, I would like to adjourn this meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting? Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adjourn the organizational meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to second Mr. Heidick's motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A motion was made by Mr. Heidick and seconded by Mrs. Thompson to adjourn this organizational meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. This meeting is adjourned at 7:54 p.m. I will give 10 minutes for family if you'd like to get pictures with the new council members, and then we'll roll into the committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. So we'll adjourn back here in 10 minutes. Here in a few seconds. Thank you. Please ensure your cell phones are off or on silent. Council members, ensure your microphones are turned on and you speak loud and clear in them.
Don't move, you can bend them closer to, make sure the red light is on.
Mainly just want to make sure that the sound is good for the live stream. All right, today is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. It's a committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. Before we start the committee of the whole meeting, we do have individual committee meetings this evening, and we will start with city utilities with Mr. Griffin.
Committees first.
Thank you, Mr. President. City utilities. I would like to call this meeting to order today, January 2nd. We are in council chambers. All members are present, including members of my committee, with Jennifer Hager and Emily Beck and myself. Tonight we have one request for legislation, and we have a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and services used in ordinary and daily operation of the municipal departments in the city of Barberton for 2024. Emergency wording requested. And we will refer this to streets. Do we have any remarks from my committee or anybody in the gallery? Hearing none, do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Motion made by Jennifer Hager. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The
Aye,
motion
sorry.
passes.
I am on every committee now.
We don't have any pending legislation. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Beck.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:18. With that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Next up will be street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to bring the Streets, Lighting, and Sidewalks Committee to order. Today is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. The time is 8:18, and we are in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair, Monty Harris, Kenny Cheatham, and Justin Greer. All other council members and others is noted on my sheet. We have 5 requests for legislation. The first being a letter from Michael Tiadecki requesting legislation to revise ordinance 102-2023 for additional costs in the amount of $5,497.95, emergency wording, and 1 reading requested. Please refer to finance. Do I have any comments from the committee? Do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Also, we have a letter. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Do I have a motion?
Those in favor.
I'm sorry?
Those in favor.
Oh, sorry, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then I go to my next one? Okay. A letter from Michael Teodecki, city engineer, requesting legislation to authorize the mayor to enter into contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the improvement of Worcester Road West from 31st Street Northwest to 4th Street Northwest. Emergency wording requested. Do I have any remarks? Any discussion? Do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have, is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Excellent. All members voting to call this piece of legislation out of committee by signifying saying aye.
Aye.
And my third one, a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation to allow the mayor or his designee to enter into contract with Cargill, Inc. for the 2024 street/road salt program. Emergency wording requested. Any comments from the committee?
Chair.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. This actual question is for the director. This is for, did we get I'm looking for the rates. I'm sorry, I have a lot of paperwork here. Are we getting a better rate this year, or?
So the rate's actually shared on the CUECOG website, and it is for the year 2024. So the pricing, I believe, is good from 9/1 of 23 through 8/31 of 2024. The delivered road salt rate is $56.80 per ton.
Okay, so the delivery may have changed, but the rates are the same as last year?
I believe so. They went down, I want to say it was a 4% reduction in cost, if I remember correctly. I would have to compare that rate to last year, but I believe we got a 4% reduction.
Awesome. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Anything else? Okay. Do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Excellent. All members voting to call this piece of legislation out of committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have our fourth piece, a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation to allow the mayor to enter into contract with GPD Group, Inc. for general professional engineering services. Emergency wording requested. Any comments from, any discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make that motion.
Excellent, thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All members voting to call this piece of legislation out of committee to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then the final piece, referred from utilities, a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and services used in the ordinary and daily operation of the municipal departments in the city of Barberton for 2024. Emergency wording requested. Any discussion from the committee? Do I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All members voting to call this piece of legislation out of committee signify by saying aye.
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 We have no pending legislation. Do I have any miscellaneous discussion? Excuse me, there you go.
So I just wanted to, since Justin questioned the salt, so last year's cost was $59.17, and this year's price is $56.80. So it was a reduction.
Thank you.
All right. And that's all of my thanks. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second. Monty Harris. And we are adjourned at 8:26.
Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Hager.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to bring the Health and Environmental Services Committee to order. It is January 2nd. The time is 8:26 p.m. and we are in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair. And give me one moment. Excuse my not knowing who's in my committee. Offhand. Okay. Including Shorter Griffin, Taylor Thompson, and Justin Greer. All other council members and others as noted on my sheet. We have no new requests for legislation and no pending legislation. Is there any miscellaneous discussion from the body? Any from the gallery? I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And we are adjourned at 8:27.
Thank you, Mrs. Hager. Next up is Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024, 8:28 p.m. The committee is present, which consists of Councilors Harris, Thompson, President Greer, and myself as chair. All others noted. We have no request for legislation. Is there any miscellaneous discussion regarding planning, annexation, and codes? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:28.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Public Welfare and Safety, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time I'd like to bring the Public Welfare and Safety Committee to order. It's Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Time is 8:28 p.m. We're in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair. We have Mr. Cheatham, Ms. Gerhart, and Mr. Greer. We have one request for legislation. That would be a letter from former Fire Chief Robert Persley through current Fire Chief Steve Iona requesting legislation to honor the retirement of Captain Fire Marshal Richard W. Hargrove, who retired on February 28th, 2020, but due to COVID, he didn't get his resolution previously. Any discussion? Can I get a motion to call for it?
I'll make that motion.
Seconds?
I'll second. All
All in favor?
right.
Aye.
Aye. I have no further legislation. Any comments from the rest of my committee? Rest of council? The body? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
The Public Welfare and Safety Committee is adjourned at 8:30 PM.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Rules, Marketing, and Development, Ms. Gerhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to bring the Rules, Marketing, and Development Committee to order. It is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. The time is 8:30 PM, and we are in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, including myself as chair, Mrs. Beck, Mr. Heidick, and President Greer. All their council members and others are noted on my sheet, and we have nothing to report this evening. Is there any discussion?
Actually, Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
I would just, as president, the rules relating to council, city council, go through your committee. And I'd ask that with the new council, if there are rule suggestions and rule changes, start noting them.
Okay.
So we can compile a list if there is any. It doesn't mean that there has to be any, but let's kind of get some fresh eyes on it, and it doesn't have to be now either. You know, maybe in a couple months we'll kind of reconvene with that.
Okay.
And
Definitely. Any other discussion, or? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I will second that.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned at 8:31 PM.
thank you, Ms. Gerhart.
Matt?
Ms. Gerhart, can you identify who made the motion for the adjournment?
Mrs. Hager?
Mrs. Hager is, let me look at this, is not on that committee. So if you can just re-ask
Recall
for
for
a
it?
motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
I would like to change the meeting end to 8:32. And could I have a motion to adjourn?
I will motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A second?
I will second that.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned at 8:32 PM.
Thank you. All right, next up, City Properties, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to bring the City Properties and Parks and Recreation Committee to order. Today's date is Monday, January 2nd, 2024. I'm sorry, Tuesday. Thank you. And the time now 8:34 p.m. All members of my committee are present, including myself as the chair, Rebecca Gerhart, Jennifer Hager, and Justin Greer. And others noted on my sheet. We have one legislative request, and a letter from Kara Lysenko of the Barberton Parks and Recreation Department requesting a resolution to honor Donna Kayam
Any discussion from the committee? Amen. Seeing, yes.
To honor her for what?
Yeah. Resolution of Council of the City of Barberton to honor and give public recognition to Donna Kayam for her continuous dedication to the City of Barberton. They good enough? Does that answer? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to call?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, hold on. And who was second? Rebecca? Okay, at this time, there is no pending legislation. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Those in favor?
Those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. It's time to move on. No pending legislation. Is there any questions or comments from the committee, body, or the gallery? If not, may I receive a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Or
Aye.
do I even have to do that?
Aye, but you don't need it,
No,
no.
okay. Okay, the time now, let's see.
8:38.
This meeting is adjourned at 8:38, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. All right. Last but not least, Finance and Personnel with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. It is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024, 8:38 p.m. here in Council Chambers. All members of the committee are present, which includes myself as chair, Mr. Heidig, President Greer, and Mr. Griffin. All other council members are present, as well as guests noted on my agenda sheet. We have 2 requests for legislation. The first, referred from Streets, a letter from Michael Tiadecki requesting legislation to revise Ordinance 102-2023 for additional costs in the amount of $5,497.95. Emergency wording and 1 reading as requested. Has anyone come up with a question since this was brought out in Streets? Hearing none, can I have a motion to call for this, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. In a second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, we have a request for an appointment, a letter from Tiffany Peters, Interim Executive Director / Director of Finance of the Barberton Community Foundation, requesting the appointment of Michael Andrick as the elected Director of the Barberton Community Foundation for a 3-year term beginning January 18th, 2024 through December 31st, 2026. 1 vote is requested as the annual meeting is on January 18th. The resume is attached. Does anybody have any questions regarding this request? Mr. Heidig?
Thank you, Chair. Is this going to replace Superintendent Ramnitz for the school's guaranteed spot on the board?
Mrs. Peters?
This, Mr. Andrick's appointment is not tied to the superintendent ex officio seat. This is just a member of the board of directors for the Barberton Community Foundation. It's not tied to the superintendent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion to call for this?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
That motion passes. We have no pending legislation. I will open it up for a miscellaneous discussion for finance and personnel from the committee, the body, the gallery. Congratulations, Mr. Flaker. Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
A second.
Finance is adjourned at 8:41 p.m.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That concludes our individual committee reports for this evening. Is there any council member feel that they need any time before we go into the committee of the whole meeting? Okay. We'll hop right into the committee of the whole meeting for this evening. All right, today is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. This is Committee of the Whole meeting for Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 8:42 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, last I checked, there was no citizens addressing council, but I will ask one last time. All right, we'll hop into our committee reports. And first up is street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, we had our Streets and Sidewalk and Lighting Committee meeting. It began at 8:20 p.m., located in council chambers. Everyone was present, including myself, Monty Harris, Kenneth Cheatham, and Justin Greer. All other council members present. We had 5 topics of legislation to vote on tonight. The first one, a letter from Mr. Michael Tiadecki requesting legislation to revise ordinance 102-2023 for additional costs in the amount of $5,497.95, emergency wording, and 1 reading requested. We had a motion from Councilman Harris. The second was from Councilman Cheatham. And everyone voted aye. Secondly, a letter from Michael Tiadecki, city engineer, requesting legislation to authorize the mayor to enter into contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the improvement of Worcester Road West from 31st Street Northwest to 4th Street Northwest. Emergency wording requested. Let's see. Mr. Harris made the motion. Mr. Cheatham seconded that motion, and everyone voted aye. Our third piece of legislation came from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation to allow the mayor or his designee to enter into contract with Cargill, Inc. for the 2024 street and road salt program. Emergency wording requested. We had a remark from Mr. Shreve that the pricing was good from 9/23 to 8/21/2024 at $8.50 a ton. He made the remark that he thinks it was a 4% reduction, which later in remarks he did say that it was down from 2023 from $59.79 to $50.80 a ton in 2024. The motion was made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Mr. Cheatham, and voted by all yeses. Our fourth piece of legislation was a letter also from Mr. Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation to allow the mayor to enter into contract with GPD Group Inc., GPD, for general professional engineering services. Emergency wording requested. Motion was made by Mr. Cheatham and second by Mr. Harris. We all voted yes on that. Then our fifth piece was referred from utilities. A letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and services used in the ordinary and daily operation of the municipal departments in the city of Barberton for 2024. Emergency wording requested. That motion was made by Mr. Harris. The motion was made by Mr. Cheatham and seconded by Mr. Harris. And we all voted yes. Let's see. We had a motion to adjourn by Mr. Cheatham. Mr. Harris seconded that motion, and we adjourned at 8:26 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Planning, Annexation, and Codes, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes has nothing to report. That I pass.
Thank you. City Utilities, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met tonight, January 2nd. All members were present and all our guests, as noted. We did have one request for legislation tonight. We had a letter from Todd Shreve, Director of Public Service, requesting legislation authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and services used in the ordinary and daily operation of the municipal department in the city of Barberton for 2024. Emergency wording was requested and it was referred to streets. We made a motion to call for this and we voted and it passed. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Public Welfare and Safety, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety Committee met this evening, January 2nd, 2024, in council chambers. All members are present. Myself as chair, Mr. Cheatham, Ms. Gearhart, Mr. Greer. Other council members were present and others noted. We had one piece of legislation. It was a letter from former Fire Chief Rob Persley through current Fire Chief Steve Iona requesting legislation to honor the retirement of Captain Fire Marshal Richard W. Hargrove, who retired on February 28, 2020 after 32 years of service. He did not receive his resolution previously due to COVID. There was a motion and a vote, and it passed. And that was it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Rules, Marketing, Development, Ms. Gearhart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, Marketing, and Development met this evening in council chambers. All members were present, and we had no requests for legislation. Remarks were made by President Greer that we need to start reviewing our council rules and start making notes on any rules that we would like to review or revise. Probably don't need to jump on this evening, but over the next few months, we adjourned at 8:32, and that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Gearhart. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Hager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services met tonight in council chambers at 8:25. All members of the committee, including myself as chairman, Shorter Griffin, Taylor Thompson, and Justin Greer were present, including other council members and guests as noted on my sheet. We had no requests for legislation and no pending legislation, and adjourned at 8:27. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Ms. Hager. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Cheatham.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation met January 2nd, 2024 at 8:34 p.m. here in council chambers. Members present was myself, Chairman, Rebecca Gerhardt, Jennifer Hager, and Justin Greer. Other council members also present as noted. We had one legislation requested by Mrs. Lysenko, and it's a resolution of the Council of the City of Barberton to honor and give public recognition to Donna Kayam for her continuous dedication to the City of Barberton. It was motion by Jennifer Hager, second by Rebecca Gerhardt, and all approved. We then adjourned the meeting at 8:38 p.m.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. Finance and Personnel, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel met this evening, January 2nd at 8:38 here in council chambers. All members of the committee were present, which includes myself as chair, Mr. Heidick, Mr. Griffin, and President Greer. All other council members were present, as well as guests noted on my sheet. We had one request of legislation referred from Streets, a letter from Michael Tiadecki requesting legislation to revise Ordinance 102-2023 for additional costs in the amount of $5,497.95. Emergency wording and one reading is requested. We also had a request for an appointment, a letter from Tiffany Peters, Interim Executive Director and Director of Finance of the Barberton Community Foundation, requesting the appointment of Michael Andrick as the elected Director of Barberton Community Foundation for a 3-year term, beginning January 18th, 2024 through December 31st, 2026. One reading is requested as the annual meeting is on January 18th, 2024. There were some questions about that from Mr. Heidick about replacing Mr. Ramnitz, and the answer was no. For miscellaneous, just congratulated Mr. Flaker on being sworn in for another term, and we adjourned at 8:41. With that, I will pass.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. That concludes our committee reports. Is there any remarks from the body? All right. I do have a couple things. First, I just want to remind all council members to return your original committee sheets before you head out today. Those are needed for notes. Our next meeting is January 8th, 2024. That'll be our first regular legislative meeting, and then we'll be back on schedule and rotate our committees. Also want to congratulate everybody again today. You made it through your first meeting. We kind of stumbled, but we got it. And that is it. That's all. Well, I hope everybody's holiday was good and had a good Christmas and New Year's. And if there's nothing from department heads, mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, first, welcome to 2024. New council members, welcome to Barberton City Council. This month, Change for Change will be January 26th at the M&M Tap House benefiting Main Street, Barberton. We're still continuing to collect non-perishables and toiletries for Backman Salvation Army through the end of this month. A lot of donations fall off after the Christmas and New Year's holiday, but the need continues to go. So we continue with the collection until the end of this month. As I've mentioned the last few weeks in the past, we're kind of at that crazy time of the year, weather-wise. So I saw everything today from a chance of rain to freezing temperatures to snow to it might not be that bad. So we just really don't know. So our street department is geared up and ready to go. There is a chance of, with the ice and the snow, later this week and into the weekend and into early next week, but we'll keep a handle on that. Staying in touch with our state and federal reps. On the federal side, we have a $700,000 plus grant that we applied through Senator Sherrod Brown's office, and that was approved out of his office. A $2 million grant that was approved out of Congresswoman Sykes' office. I'm staying in touch with both offices, because just because it's been approved out of their office doesn't mean that it's been officially approved for us to get the money. So staying in touch with them and who else we have to advocate for all of the Senate or Congress to vote on the big bill. So I'll keep you up to date as information comes in on that. I'd like to set up a tour. I had mentioned this before, set up a tour for new council members of city facilities. It typically takes about 4 hours. So we'll have the department heads there, go through the water treatment plant, go through the street department, those types of things. So I'm looking at Saturday, January 13th, weather dependent, and I'll send an email out to everybody once I get that confirmed to make sure that it's okay with you guys as well. Just lots of, as I mentioned before, and a few of us have during the orientation, a lot of projects going on, a lot of processes that are associated with our operations. So it's important that you ask questions. You'll get out of this experience what you put into it. So as we move forward, there's a lot to learn. You're not going to get it overnight, but you will pick it up. So just please ask questions. I know a few of you have contacted our department heads and have been in to meet with them, and that's great. And I've reminded our department heads that we can't just come up here and throw out acronyms and expect you to know what they mean, right? So ask questions, and we'll do our best to kind of explain what CDBG is and the rules with that and different programs at the local, county, state, and federal level as well. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
I do have a question there.
Yes.
For the tour, can we, all council members get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send that to all of council members. I'll send that out hopefully the January the 13th if that works for everybody. Weather dependent. Probably start around 9 in the morning, and it's probably a good 4 hours. Right. But I'll send an email out to make sure it's best for everybody. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing else. This meeting is adjourned at 8:57 p.m.